Akademiks can't ride no wave.
Okay. We'll just get into the court proceedings today. Here we go. 47 minutes ago, court is in session. AUSA. Hold on. So it seems yesterday Jane Doe was dismissed. So today, part 2 of comments. What? Day 23. Yeah. Oh, never mind. I think. Okay. So there's 2 parts. Give me 1 second, chat. I'm gonna find it. His comments was actually broken. Okay. Here we go. By the way, I know we jumped really quickly into the trial today, but urgent things call for urgent, means. It matters. Everybody, please check in. Where you from? Where you repping? Would love to know. So for about 4 hours ago, this is where everything started. Ignifilo says, hey, listen, the government has proposed a witness for today that doesn't know how the guns were moved or even put in the supply room. He don't got no personal knowledge. We want him excluded. The judge says, well, he's not an expert witness. He's a fact witness. Now, the AUSA says, well, he was at the premises. The guns were found in the security room. They could cross-examine. There's nothing prejudicial. The judge is saying it's not about prejudice. Ignifilo is going to object to every statement. That's the issue. Ignifilo says, I don't want jurors to see me objecting every time to guns. There's nothing illegal about these guns. Mr. Combs has professional security. The guns were in a safe. The witness is prejudicial. I don't care that they don't know where the Astroglide was. Okay? Ignifilo says, but these are guns. These are guns. By the way, Big Carolina in the building, Boston in the building, Tennessee, Memphis, Brooklyn. Holy. It says, this witness shouldn't testify. Now, this is an important thing, and I wonder what case law supports this. Because the idea of crimes that might consist of weapons, it makes sense. If I supposedly shot someone, and even if they didn't find the gun, but I'm accused of it, it's probably worthy of a testimony, even though I still think it's prejudicial because, I'm a staunch 2A type of guy. If somebody says, Act got 50 guns, he kind of do got a gun that look like that sound like that, or whatever, that could be concealed like that. People would say, well, listen, that's a testimony that could be, evidentiary, not towards, being an eyewitness, but like just towards the knowledge, right? And my defense team could go back and say, well, everybody has guns. Don't you have guns? How does this mean this guy's guilty? I don't like when they try to do this. But especially, I don't like when they try to do this in a case, in a case that's not a gun case. Diddy isn't accused of shooting no one. However, he's accused of taking weapons to try to intimidate or maybe threaten violence. And that's why these guns are coming up. But I still think it's severely prejudicial. And the judge doesn't agree that they should bar anything about the guns unless the guns were illegal. You know what I mean? So Ignifilo is saying, the gun is legal. The fuck are you talking about? The witness shouldn't testify about guns. AUSA says that's how every law enforcement search is done. The property is secured before the search begins. They could ask, and as judge says, Ignifilo, the defense would stipulate that the guns were there, right? Ignifilo says, you're asking for the first time. I know the property well. I've been there many times. The security room has been locked. Judge says, can we find a person who did this? Comey says, may I step up? He says, this is how HSI does searches. They have a team, goes in, make sure the area is safe. They're not experts in collecting evidence. Mrs. Foster can ask about that. I expect he'll say that it was made safe. Okay? Ignifilo says, I'm not seeing how the guns are relevant if they were locked up. Guns are a very divisive issue, which I agree with. Keep in mind, if this was in a district, in a federal district that fell in Texas, they would probably more be able to say, we're not going to be dealing with that because everybody has a right to bear arms. But in a place like New York and the Southern District of New York, which actually has, some of the boroughs and it's New York City, their view towards guns is very negative. By the way, if you don't know, this is a super political thing. Every gun law that kind of goes through federally goes through in Texas. Because when Texas federal judges look at shit, they're like, oh, they're supposed to have guns. And then that becomes adopted for, if the Supreme Court looks at it, they might say, oh, okay, that's true. And then you have states like, for example, gun laws have been somewhat relaxed, even though the attorney generals in both New York and New Jersey and some other places have been fighting it because the Supreme Court said, no, wait, hold on now. It came through the circuit court and district court of Texas. Those judges, because they're from Texas, they're going to be like, guns, yes. And the Supreme Court actually agree with them. So now you have New Jersey and like, for example, I have a CCW, would never be able to have a CCW in Jersey, or so hard. Before, a couple years ago, when the ruling came down to say it's non-constitutional to not have a pathway for a private, legal, law-abiding citizen to have and bear arms. So then they had to create a way, even if it was complicated or not, for people to carry weapons. Before, they were thinking this, because in Texas, not that many people compared to the square mileage. In New York, New Jersey, everybody's living on top of each other. If everybody got a gun, it might be more violence, so they don't like guns, okay? Anyway, that's a very divisive issue in federal court. And because this federal court is actually in New York City, right? The courthouse for SDNY is literally in New York City. Their views on gun, most likely the people polled in the precincts of that, vicinity are going to be negative against guns, even despite federal gun laws or federal gun statutes or the Constitution. So that's why he's bringing that up, okay? And I probably went long on that explanation, but I hope you get it. The judge says the witness could be asked about this. That's how we'll proceed. Ignifilo says, I had no idea, he had no idea where the guns were found. Ignifilo says, I want to know where the guns are found. I don't want to play Russian roulette with guns. No pun intended, right? So this is how Russian roulette is played, by the way. The judge says the agent could testify now as to the juror. Why can't we bring the juror out today and get to the bottom of what the parties have raised and the submissions they've not put into the docket? So there's a juror, I think it's juror 4. They said there's a issue with what they call lack of candor, which means this person has not been forthcoming or honest with the court or other authorities about their proclivities, their exposures, or their past criminal histories. So if they ask you, yo, have you ever been arrested? And you said, nah, I never been arrested, but you did get arrested because you robbed a candy store and took a bunch of like Twix. You have lack of candor issues. And that usually precludes you from being on a jury, because if you would lie about your criminal history, why would you not, be facetious or deceivious, right? Or deceitful in trying to apply justice. Okay? So that's one of the things. We don't know exactly what it is. Ignifilo says the juror is not a professional speaker. These were honest answers. I'm hesitant to raise the issue again and lead the juror to think he said something wrong. The juror's answers are innocuous, which means they're just innocent. Like they're not supposed to mean one way or the other. So we're concerned about his residency. So look like Ignifilo says residency was resolved. This jury is diligent. Let's treat him with respect. So look like now we're kind of get some idea. They probably asked this juror if he was maybe a citizen as opposed to a permanent resident. Now, if you know in the whole well, maybe you don't know, immigration process, you could be a legal visitor, you could be a resident, a legal resident, you could be a permanent resident, and that's all before you become a legal citizen. And a legal citizen is the highest remark of the land. Okay, so look like this guy may have been asked the question, "Which are you?" and he answered. And maybe his answer was not that far off of maybe the reality, because sometimes people who are permanent residents, I'll give you, I've gone through, I was a kid when that happened, but I'm very familiar with the immigration process. You're a permanent resident when you get a green card. A green card is a permanent resident card. Okay? Well, usually temporary, then permanent. There's actually, I think, two types, if I'm mistaken. When you get your citizenship, you're now not only a resident, but a citizen of the United States. So maybe they asked him, hey, are you a citizen? Maybe he's a permanent resident. And maybe he feels that, because when you're a permanent resident, you're basically on the way. Like you're about to be, you're just waiting to be a citizen of the United States. Maybe he checked the box, yes, I'm a citizen, right? Because he already is 90% there. And maybe they're saying he's not a citizen, right? And I don't know. I'm only going off of that because they said residency. Now, residency could also mean he claims he lives somewhere or resides in a certain jurisdiction, but he has multiple addresses. I'm going to go with, possibly citizenship and shit like that, okay? Anyway. Judge says there's no issue with qualification to serve. This juror met the qualification at the time. It was vague enough that the answers can be reconciled. So now I'm thinking citizenship. Yes, like I think, for you to serve as a juror in the United States, let's see, citizenship status to serve as juror in U.S. Here we go. To serve, you must be a citizen. Okay. And a resident of the judicial district you're called to serve. So maybe the guy's a citizen, but maybe he doesn't live in that judicial district. Maybe he just moved. I don't know. Okay. There's a bunch of floating ideas. They're not telling us directly, so I have to speculate. So if you see that, be like, I care a little bit off. I'm speculating, right? Cool. By the way, voice doing good today, chat? Might have to go get some tea again. Might have to bring some fruit back in this too. I'm doing a lot better today. Okay, great. So the judge says there's no issue with the person serving. It's vague enough. The answer could be reconciled. The AUSA wants this person off. It says the juror said multiple things that can't all be true. Additional steps should be taken to protect the record. The judge says my preference would be to run it to the ground and hear from the juror. I expect we will hear a perfectly reasonable explanation. The judge says, but let me say, the allegations in court that the government is engaging in bias, I don't think there's basis in that statement. So here's the thing. Remember, in jury, selection, there was actually a clause that was actually, or an application made by Diddy's defense team to say, like, of the 9 people they dismissed with their preemptive strikes, 8 of them were black. They know Diddy's a black man. They want to make sure the jury's not black. Now, from what I hear, the jury's still about 7 of 5 black. It's still majority black. So Diddy still has mostly black people. But they were worried that of all the people coming out, or when there was a larger pool, I think it was 48, then turned to 43, they had to cut it to 18 because, yes, there's 12 jurors, 6 alternates. What ended up happening is that they had preemptive strikes, right? So you could just, it's like these preemptive flags that you could be like, yo, we want him out, we want him out. For the government, 8 of the 9 people they selected to be out were black, right? And the defense said, whoa, kind of look like y'all are trying to get the black people out of here. So we put the application in. So it was denied at first, but even now they're trying to get another juror out, and apparently this juror is black too. Now, the judge is addressing this and saying, hey, by the way, because I know about the application I made, like, when we were doing jury selection at the beginning, I don't think that there's any bias with them trying to get this jury out. I don't think they're trying to get them out because they're black. I don't think there was any bias in the jury selection, nor what happened in the roping room. It is understandable that they would raise this in court, though. Shapiro said, we are concerned that if we bring the jury back in for questioning, it may impact their behavior during the deliberations. The judge says, we don't have to get into that right now. Mr. Combs, are you waiving the issue? And Diddy says, yes. The judge says, where do you live? And answer, are you saying the Bronx? Okay, so it's a residentiary issue. Do you live within the residential jurisdiction of that district? So an answer saying the Bronx was accurate. one might move, but it wouldn't raise to a level of removal of a juror. So they're saying if the person at the time when they filled out a form that they got invited to be a juror, they lived in the Bronx, but then subsequently moved, it doesn't mean they would get eliminated as a juror because that's something that normal people do. AUSA says, sure, some of the other cases are more extreme. Here, Rule 24C is operative. AUSA says, given where we are now, it's a government position, we should get to the bottom of the issue. We have at least one question. Does the jurors' employers have a residency requirement? That might explain the answer. Shapiro said that would be harassing the juror to inquire about their employer. AUSA says, I don't understand why the defense is so adverse to asking this question. I wasn't present when this juror was questioned in the Robin room. Okay, so we now find out that the juror was brought to the Robin room, okay? The judge says, if we or I question him, let's do it at the end of the day. Let's bring in the jury, then the witness. So the judge is saying, let's handle this at the end of the day. AUSA says, Ms. Foster is telling the witness about new questions, okay? So, okay, break. They have a break. They come back. It's now 9:46. Jury enters. Judge says, all rise, jury. You can see we're only 50 minutes late today. So we're doing better. He smiles. It's almost like a joke because they were late about 2 to 3 hours yesterday. They started around 11 a.m. They're starting at 9:46 a.m. today. Comey says we're going to introduce the following exhibits under seal: E331, BR-C, -FR, and -HR. They're all going to be under Your Honor's pseudonyms order. AUSA says, in this message, ooh. Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck? Wait. Okay. Wait, who's on the stand? Okay. So, the witness hasn't came in. So let's introduce these text messages involving Christina Karam. Let me read. Puff's phone 2. Make sure Robin pays her rent. KK. Robin said her rent was paid. AUSA says, in the vicinity of Newark Airport, cell phone from Damon Butler. AUSA says, and this message, 3 of my doors are broken. This is crazy. And then they want to read a message from D-Rock. He's coming into the house. He just texted me. I don't think it's a good idea to leave your place. That's not going to make it better. He has my key. I don't feel safe. AUSA still reading these messages. It says the key has a blue fuzzy tail. Just take it. D-Rock says, I'm at the house. Puff is here. You know I can't take your keys from him. Judge says, thank you. The government may now call its next witness. The government calls Special Agent Andre Lamont. He said, where do you work, Andre? Andre Lamont says, I work in HSI in Los Angeles in the Human Trafficking Unit. He said, do you execute search warrants? He said, yes, 50 or 60 so far in my career. Did you execute the 200 South Mapleton Drive, LA search warrant? By the way, let's look at that. That's Diddy's crib. That's Diddy's crib right there. Diddy's crib. That's the house that was raided, okay? 200 South Mapleton Drive, which, by the way, I think he has up for sale. Agent Lamont says, yeah, HSI New York asked HSI LA to be involved. We executed a search warrant. So here's an exhibit. Please publish it. That's what AUSA says. Says, what are these other buildings? He said, that's a sauna. So he has a sauna on the property, and that's a recording studio. So what rooms were searched? We searched everything. Lamont says, it's a large property. I went through the objects that were seized and entered them into our case management system. AUSA says, we moved to enter into evidence these exhibits. Ignifilo says, objection. They have a sidebar. The sidebar happens. They come back. The judge says the exhibits are going to be admitted. AUSA says, what are these? These are the floor plans of South Mapleton. AUSA says, do you know how accurate these are? Lamont says, I was there. AUSA says, how many manila envelopes were there in the nightstand? Agent says 6. AUSA says, what was written on them? K. Could we publish a stipulation? Testing determined that the K envelope with the shamrock, it was ketamine. Is there a safe in this closet? They're showing a picture. Lamont says, yes, it's gray. There it is in the photo. It says, what's in the safe? It says a password for Combs, plastic bag with substances in it. And there was a stipulations for power of 15 to 16. A testing found the brown pebbles. They were MDMA. They were MDMA. AUSA says, what's in his bag? Lamont says, J&J baby oil, Astroglide, and some lingerie. AUSA says, where else were Astroglide and baby oil found? Lamont says in the bathroom, in the garage. AUSA says show the photos. They show a photo of a bookcase full of baby oil and a drawer full of Astroglides. The next photo was a box marked Astroglides in 24 boxes. What were found with these boxes of Astroglides? Lamont says it was found in the garage. AUSA says, how much bottles of baby oil did you find? Lamont says 200. How many bottles of Astroglide did you find in 200 South Mapleton? We found 900. So there was 900 bottles of Astroglides and 200 bottles of baby oil. So let's turn to the firearms you found in the residence. What are these? Lamont said this is a Ruger. This is a Glock pistol, and this is some type of AR-15 platform. Remember, the long gun was disassembled. AUSA says, let's show the photo. What is this? Lamont says, this is a Smith & Wesson rifle. It's on a chair. There's a 3 30-round magazines next to it. Lamont says there's also a 5.11 bag. They said, what's that? He said, just a bag. And AUSA says this. That's rifles and obviously a Mossberg shotgun. By the way, I call that the ring camera, chat. Ain't nothing better than home defense in a Mossberg. Fuck your handgun, fuck your AR. The ring camera, that's the Mossberg. Everybody should have one. Holy. Okay? Ding dong, boom. There we go. AUSA. And this, so that's a drum magazine. It's a large capacity. This one was a 60-round drum. It had 59 rounds of green tip ammunition inside of it. AUSA says, what does green tip ammunition do? It says, well, it's actually body armor piercing ammunition. It said, go look at the boxes of the firearms in the cart next to you. He goes off mic. He goes look at the firearms. So there's a cart. He says, the serial number, where they existed, it didn't match up. AUSA says, how many of the firearms does not have serial numbers? He said, what one did not, and they hold up a long gun. He says, how are the serial numbers on this one eliminated? He says they were sanded off with a machine. It's smooth, not like it was done with like a screwdriver. AUSA says that's enough. No further questions. And Nifilo, what about you? Nifilo says, are you aware that Combs has security, right? Lamont says, I'm aware. Nifilo says, and every gun and piece of ammo was recovered from the security office, all right? So, yeah. Did you ever find guns in the kids' room? Nah, we ain't find them in the kids' room. Was the security office door locked? He says, not when I got there. Nifilo says, but before. Isn't it important? Did it have a lock? Lamont said it had a knob. Lock, I don't know. AUSA says you have no reason to think the safe was open before you got there, right? He says no. Here we go. So now I think this is broken. Let's go to the other thing. Oh, wait, what the hell? Is it lunchtime already? I guess it is. Matthew Russell's talking again. Give me a second.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here, midday on Friday, June 13th, day 23 of U.S. versus Sean Combs, here in the Southern District. This is the street just off to the side, but it seemed like a good time to say the big news of the day, apparently, was the arrival of Kanye West at the trial. He appeared mid-morning in a white jacket and white pants. It caused a lot of consternation. There was a lot of security suddenly in the courthouse. People were told, what they could and couldn't do. He was taken up to the overflow room. He didn't stay long, frankly. Might have been better for him to come yesterday. And those who read Inner City Press online or the forthcoming book of Week 5 will know why that is. But he did show up, and I heard somebody mumbling that he might come back Monday. I don't know. We'll have to see. He made his appearance. But on the stand now, there was a special agent who searched the house in Los Angeles, found cases of Astroglide and guns. Now, Mark Agnifilo said the guns were all in a safe, and they should have had the agent that actually took them out of the safe come. But that agent didn't come. So this agent testified, and Agnifilo hammered it home that these guns were in a safe. And he said it's not clear to him how they're even relevant if the guns were legal. One had the serial number filed off. That's sure to come up at closing. But then Jonathan Perez, currently on the stand, still on direct. He'll be cross-examined too. This might be the rest of the day, in fact. He was a personal assistant. He was working in both Los Angeles and Miami. The main focus so far is that he stumbled upon on an iPad video of the witness known as Jane having sex with someone, not Mr. Combs, and Mr. Combs present and watching. Now, when he found this, he says he took it to Mr. Combs, who deleted it. But then, sometime thereafter, Christina Karam, who is not yet...
Wait, what? Oh, chat, we got to read this message first. Oh, he's breaking out some other shit. My bad. The thing got fractured. Hold on. So there's some tea right here, chat. Let's go. So AUSA says, Mr. Perez, is this your text message? Jonathan Perez says, wait. Who's Perez? What the fuck? Chat, what just happened? This whole thing's like fractured. Hold on. Oh my God. Where did we end off with this? Chat? Your Twitter's fucking us up. Sorry, chat. Just give me a second. I want to make sure we're sequentially getting to everything. So the first thing was 4 hours ago. We want to know exactly, because Lamont was, okay. So this is Lamont. Okay, bet. Here we go. So this is Lamont. So bet. Woo. This is Lamont. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. Is there a safe in the closet? Okay, passport. Okay, cool. Let's keep it going. What's in this bag? Astroglide. They found 200, 900. Okay, bet. Firearms. Okay, cool. Ignifilo says there's a knob on lock. He said, I don't know. There's no reason to think there's a safe. He says no. We don't get nothing else after that. What the fuck? So, but it's 2 hours ago. So let's try to connect it. Okay. Agent Lamont says, oh, we brought in a locksmith, but I didn't see him touch the safe. Ignifilo says, we're in Manhattan. We don't know a lot about guns. Sorry. The judge says withdrawn. Ignifilo says, this was a gun safe? Lamont says, yes, it's designed for that. Ignifilo says, why no photo of opening it? Lamont says, SRT goes in first. Ignifilo says, so because this is protocol, we don't have any photographs. Do you use a body cam? Lamont says no. Ignifilo says, in your human trafficking work, have you ever dealt with Astroglide before? Lamont says no, only in this case. Ignifilo laughs and says, okay. The judge says, no comments, please. Ignifilo says, so the baby oil was in the garage, right? Lamont says, it was Astroglide in the garage. Ignifilo says, are you from LA? Lamont says, yes. Ignifilo says, enjoy, brother. No more further questions. There was no redirect. Again, there's not much to really question an agent who executes a search warrant. The search warrant happens. That's it. What more is to do, okay? AUSA says, do any of the firearms not have serial numbers? I thought there's no redirect. Oh, there's no redirect. Yeah, this is odd. My bad, chat. Like, this whole thing is just scuffed. Okay. Then I guess they take a break. They said they're back for Jonathan Perez. I guess this is the next witness. Jonathan Perez is going to take the fifth. Oh, fuck. This thing is scuffed, Chad. My bad. It's not me. It's how they have this thing written. Okay. Yeah, this is scuffed. Yeah, like, what is this replying to? Post is unavailable. What? Anyway, somebody named Jonathan Perez gets called. Don't know who he is. He invokes his Fifth Amendment, right? AUSA says, do you intend to assert your right as explained? Yes. Judge says, I'm going to enter the order of immunity, so this guy gets immunity. Comey says, my colleagues tell me that Combs has been nodding during the cross. Please instruct him. So it looked like Diddy keeps doing this. And remember, the judge already warned him, like, yo, we might remove you from the courtroom. Stop looking at jurors. Stop doing too much. Diddy looked like he can't just sit still. Like, Diddy still got that, you know what I mean? He wanna do all that, you know what I mean? He do want to do all that type of shit. Okay, cool. All right, look like they took a break. All right, man, this is all over the place. Oh, boy, all inner city pressure shit is scuffed today. Okay. Okay. Let's finish playing this video.
Finally, after the government's going to agree to the statement that they proposed, but you can be the judge, and in fact, we should be tweeting it pretty quickly, pretty soon.
No, that's Jesus Christ. Chat, y'all gotta just give me some understanding.
Or
here.
Matthew
Usually the text thread runs sequentially. It's fucked today.
hammered at home that these guns were in a safe, and he said it's not clear to him how they're even relevant if the guns were legal. One had the serial number filed off. That's sure to come up at closing. But then Jonathan Perez, currently on the stand, still on direct. He'll be cross-examined too. This might be the rest of the day, in fact. He was a personal assistant. He was working in both Los Angeles and Miami. The main focus so far is that he stumbled upon on an iPad video of the witness known as Jane having sex with someone, not Mr. Combs, and Mr. Combs present and watching. Now, when he found this, he says he took it to Mr. Combs, who deleted it.
Okay, so there's a staffer named Perez.
But then, sometime thereafter, Christina Karam, who has not yet appeared in this trial, but has been mentioned very many times, Christina Karam interviewed and kind of interrogated him about who else had seen the video, was he the source, because they started being blackmailed about the video. So I don't see where they're going yet, but it's interesting, and it harkens back to, I think it was Capricorn Clark, who was hooked up to a lie detector machine in an empty office on Broadway with security of Combs. So this is a pattern. They're showing a pattern of a kind of roguelike organization. It's crazy. This guy wanted to be a personal assistant to Sean Combs. The next thing you know, he's setting up hotel rooms with Astroglide and getting cross-examined about these weird freak-off videos. So be careful the job that you wish for. In any event, we're going back in, and Book 5 is well along. We've actually...
Okay. So this Jonathan Perez guy is a staffer, and it looks like he may have found videos of... Why is this shit so scuffed, bro? I need to find stuff from 2 hours ago. Give me a second. Oh my God, this is fucking me up. Yeah, this shit is scuffed. Okay, I think I got it. Maybe? All right. Okay, I'm probably not getting the full message here, but Jonathan Perez gets immunity. He gets on the stand. AUSA says, "Is this your text message?" Jonathan says, "Yes, it's me, KK, and Joey." AUSA says, KK asked, "How's the setup going? How much longer y'all need?" What'd you write back? I wrote, "I got some fruits, shakes, and I'll ask Jane about outfits." So now this is kind of going into this idea that it's a RICO. If you believe that the freak-offs is a sexual commercial act, which I kind of believe, but do I believe it's coerced and forced? I don't know. And that would... You need all those things to be true for it to be sex trafficking, right? Okay. So it looks like this guy is, at this point, remember, this is 2022 and after. Diddy is no longer having his personal assistants do it. Diddy is having his, chief of staff, Christina Karam, have other people set it up. And they're setting it up not even with secrecy and privacy. They're like, yo, ask her what outfit she want to wear for Diddy, right? So, this now is seeming organizational. So we got fruits, we got shakes. We'll ask Jane about the outfits. AUSA says, then KK asked, "Is the room done yet?" How'd you respond? I wrote, "The room is done. Now I'm going to the store." I said, "What store were you going to?" Perez says, "The adult store." AUSA says, afterwards, KK asked about the cleanup. Cleanup of what? Perez says, of the room. AUSA says, "How did you become aware of this video?" Perez says, "A videographer named Brandon showed it to me." He said, "Where did you go?" I took an iPad and I went to the office. What was on the video? Jane was having sex with a black man and Mr. Combs was watching. Okay, so this is a freak off then. So somebody had a video of Daphne having sex with a man with Diddy watching. AUSA says, "Did you tell Combs?" Perez says, "I did. I told him I found it on an iPad and it probably shouldn't be there. He seemed surprised." AUSA says, "What did KK say?" She said in the future I should bring things that to her. I described it to her. AUSA says, "Did you speak with her about it again?" KK says she had gotten a call from somebody outside the company talking about the video in some capacity. AUSA says, "Did you record that conversation?" Perez says, "No." Were you aware it was recorded? He says no. AUSA says, show the stipulation, the seizure of Christina Karam's phone. We offer the audio and the transcripts. They play the audio and they stop it. So it looked like Christina Karam had filmed. Christina Karam had not filmed but recorded that conversation with the guy. Why? I think she probably thought that, oh shit, you now have a video of Diddy in this situation. Maybe you're going to use it as blackmail. Let me get some recording of you, right? So they play it. They say, whose voice did you hear, Mr. Perez? He says KK. It's audio of KK saying both time the only person at the house who knew about it was you. Where did you find it? Perez says, Brandon, the shooter. AUSA says, was that you? Perez says, yes. And he's the videographer. Perez says, Brandon was like, something's on the iPad I shouldn't see. I started. KK says, was there anyone else in the theater? Perez says, maybe Gio. KK says, we have camera footage of who was in the house. Perez says, I went to Puff Daddy about it and said, you could delete it. He said, okay, and deleted it. Then I told you. Did you hear anyone else talk about it? Did anyone else ever bring it up? Perez says, no. Perez says, Rob talked about it, but he said he didn't want to see it. Why did you not want to delete it? That's what AUSA asked Perez. Perez says, it wasn't my role. There's another audio played. Perez says, there should be an investigation. Mr. Combs thought he might be compromised in some way. His phone data. AUSA says, let's pull this one up for the jury next, okay? There's audio of Perez saying, I told Rob I found something private on the iPad. He said he didn't want to know. KK says, was there anyone in the theater except you all and Gio? Perez says, no. Was Chef in the theater? Perez says, yes. AUSA says, why didn't you say Chef K was there? Perez says, I wanted to minimize things. So I guess the chef was there, but he lied to KK. He said he was trying to minimize things. AUSA says, did anyone ask you again? Yes, Fahim did. He asked me what happened when I found the video of Jane. AUSA says, how did you know that? How were you aware that Fahim knew? Are you aware that Fahim knew? He says, no. Interesting. This whole tweet shit is scuffed today, chat. We're scuffed on tweets. Let's go to Lauren Conlin. Oh, she just uploaded something. Here we go, chat.
Day 23, U.S. versus Sean Combs, and Kanye West was in the building. However, he was not in the courtroom. He shows up, he gets out of the car, it's like a whole big media frenzy, and he goes through security where you have to give up your phone, all this stuff. But there's a very strict process to get into the courtroom, and you have to be on a list ahead of time. And we were told that he was going to go into the overflow room. Now, I know that didn't happen. I know that he left for lunch with, I believe, Christian Combs and some of Diddy's crew. So I don't know if he's coming back after lunch, but I was like, yeah, there's no way he's going to go into overflow. And I think that my assumptions were correct as to who Jane went to Vegas with on this private jet, this iconic rapper, because it would have been intimidation, I guess, if he came yesterday and sat in the courtroom during Jane's testimony. That's what I think. But anyway, let's get to juror number 6. This issue was not as salacious as we all originally thought it was. Juror number 6, they brought up that he was not living in the district that he had originally indicated, and he was having some kind of conversation with a jury staff member, and it kind of came up. It was super innocent, but it didn't really match what he said during voir dire or what was on the transcript. So he was questioned, I think, twice. And the government, their concern is that he was being deceitful, and the defense is like, they're just like, who cares? We have no issue with this. Plus, he's one of 4 black jurors, and this is racial bias if you get rid of him. And
oh, it was only 4? I thought it was 8.
Out of the way. No bias here whatsoever. But he said, he also was kind of like, I don't think it's a big deal, but the answer here, since, the government has a problem with it, would be to question him again. And the defense just said, we don't want to question him for a third time because that will affect, how he feels during deliberations, and he'll feel singled out, and we just don't want to do that. And they actually said, we will forfeit any appellate issues or any appeals if Mr. Combs is convicted with this juror on the jury, and we'll waive everything. And Alexandra Shapiro even kind of said, Mr. Combs is right here, and he'll agree to it. And then the judge is like, do you waive the appeal pertaining to this, Mr. Combs? And he actually goes, I waive it. And that was a funny moment. So yeah, it wasn't as crazy as we thought it would be, but they are most likely going to question this juror by the end of the day in private, so it didn't hold anything up. So we'll see. I have a feeling that he'll stay. But they had an issue this morning about the testimony of the HSI agent that we were about to see, because he seized a bunch of guns from the LA home, Diddy's LA home, but he could not confirm whether or not the guns were in the safe when they were found, which was a really important, note for the defense. The defense, oh my gosh, sorry. The defense was kind of like, we think it's really important that the jury knows that these guns, they were not strewn about the house, they were in a safe in the security room, and the fact that this special agent can't tell us this is a huge problem. And Agnifilo was like, he shouldn't even be able to testify. So they seemed to work it out where the government would ask a certain line of questioning around the safe and the guns in the security room, and then when Agnifilo got up there to cross-examine him, he just really made sure to say, okay, so you saw kids' rooms in the house, you saw, all these different rooms, but the guns you found, they were only in the security room, because he has a whole security staff. And the special agent, and his name is Andre Lamont, he said yes. And he also said that, there were 6 guns found. And I'll go through the evidence in a minute. There were 6 guns found. Only one of them was defaced, he thought, with maybe something like a sander, because it was very smooth. And we saw in the safe there were racks for the guns, but in the pictures that we saw, they were laying out or laid out on 2 different chairs. And essentially his explanation for why there were no pictures before is that HSI did not go in and seize these guns first, that the CERT team did, because whenever there's weapons in the house, it's the CERT team's job to go in and ensure that the weapons are dismantled and that everybody is safe. So that was sort of his answer to that. And let me just go through the rest of the evidence that was found at Diddy's LA home, which is on Mapleton. There were 6 envelopes of K. There was a baggie of MDMA in a safe. There was 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide. And the Astroglide, by the way, was stacked in it was in the garage in these giant, 10 giant boxes. Looked like you got them from Amazon or something like that, but it was wild. And then the guns. There was 5 rifles and 1 Glock. Yeah. So and then during Agnifilo's cross-examination, he kind of, he said, Special Agent Lamont, you testified that you've done 50 to 60 searches like this, and you work in the human trafficking department. And he said yes. And Agnifilo said, in all of your 50 to 60 raids, how many times have you seized baby oil or Astroglide from an operation? And he said once, this one. And then Agnifilo said, and yeah, you seized that all throughout the house, right? And he did. We saw this in the bathroom. We saw baby oil, stacked on shelves in the master bedroom. And so, yeah, he said, yes, it was all around the house. And then Agnifilo had this little mic drop moment, I guess, because he goes, and the guns, those were only in the security room. And he's like, yes. So yeah. And then he kind of made the jury laugh a little bit, because he told him to have a good, he told them to have a good time in New York. Oh man, I really pray that stops soon. Okay, I only have a few other things to go through. Hold on, I'll stop for a minute to see if.
All right, let's go to my man Logic. Did he upload anything today? Probably not. I know Sean G gonna be in the building. I know Sean G already on this shit. Here we go. Here we go.
People, and the jurors come in and they get asked questions by the attorneys or whoever, and it's decided whether the juror can be impartial or is the juror already biased.
Let's get past that part.
Look at yours, you got me.
Okay.
Here.
What the hell? Is this Bishop Dom Magic Wand?
Says, Your Honor, this is a significant issue, and maybe we need to contact juror number 6's employer to make sure that he lives in New York and that everything he said in the jury selection process was accurate. After Ms. Steiner said that, Alexandra Shapiro, Puffy's lawyer, stood back up again, and she said, Your Honor, now we're gonna harass juror number 6, then we're going to harass juror number 6's employer. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? This is not a significant issue. You've already spoken to juror number 6. Mr. Combs has waived his right to appeal. Nothing of what has come up, none of this gives rise to the level of removal of juror number 6. Ms. Shapiro sat back down. The Assistant U.S. Attorney, Judge Steiner, stood back up. Your Honor, I want you to speak to juror number 6 again for a third time to make sure. And the judge, by this time, the judge was like tired of hearing from the Assistant U.S. Attorney. He was tired of hearing from Ms. Shapiro. He had already decided that juror number 6 is not going to be removed. And then he said, to satisfy them, but he probably ain't going to do it, he said, let me think about it if I'm going to speak to juror number 6 again. And that took up a big part of the morning. Now, Kanye West came in the building. Now, what has been alleged, I only got 296 thumbs up. I need 500. I need 500 thumbs up.
I need at least 1,000.
Double tap that screen and put the thumbs up on 500. The rumor mill has it that yesterday with Jane Doe, under cross-examination by Tenny Garagos, whose father is Mark Garagos, who represented Michael Jackson, and I love Michael Jackson. Tenny Garagos, under cross-examination, brought up an incident to where Jane Doe jumped on a private jet with an iconic rapper and flew to Las Vegas with the iconic rapper and the iconic rapper's girlfriend. And when they got to Las Vegas, they went into this hotel suite at the, I got it right here. I got my notes. I got my notes. She went to Las Vegas with an iconic rapper who is very close to Puff. He's at the top of the music industry. And
Feels like it's Ye now, right?
they went to the Encore Hotel. And when Jane Doe got into the hotel room with the rapper and the 7 or 8 other people, all 7 or 8 other people were watching Anton have sex with a woman. And we know that Anton regularly has sex with Jane Doe and Puff when they're doing hotel nights. And she probably let Anton hit it on his own when Puffy ain't around. At this hotel, the iconic rapper starts flirting with Jane Doe, and Jane Doe lifts up her shirt and shows her breasts. The iconic rapper tells her, "I always thought you were beautiful, and I always wanted to blank you. The rapper had a crush on me. He wanted to hit it." So the rumor mill in the court and on the internet is suggesting that that iconic rapper is Kanye. And potentially, I need 39 more thumbs up to get to 500. I need y'all to tap that screen. The gossip mill and the rumor mill is that Kanye is in town because the government is going to rest its case next Friday or Wednesday, and that Kanye potentially
Take a stand?
could be a witness for Puffy, a witness for the defense, and could offer into testimony that he actually saw Jane Doe. Either he hit it himself, or he saw Jane Doe let Anton hit it over there.
Oh, nah.
It was also brought up that while Jane Doe was in Las Vegas with this iconic rapper, Jane Doe, under her own volition, under her own choice, using her own judgment, her own decision making, and exercising her own will and behavior, brought up to the iconic rapper that she could get in touch with Cabral. And we all know that Cabral is from Atlanta, and Cabral been hitting that. You understand? And then Tanny Garagos asked her, well, why would you bring up Cabral? How did that come up? Jane Doe testified on the stand under oath that she felt that the iconic rapper and his wife and his girlfriend picked up on her energy, and that they may have known that her and Puffy did similar things. This is what Jane Doe testified to on the stand. I got the notes written down. I'm getting ready to go back into court. I will be back this afternoon. The government called a witness today from Homeland Security. He was the lead agent in charge of searching Puffy's Los Angeles.
By the way, I know Unc is cooking, and you know what I mean, I think Unc's chefing up something good. But I got to be honest, I think there's zero chance that Kanye West take that stand. You don't take a stand in a federal case where it could be hypothesized that you be on the same shit as Diddy, that you do the same sexual debauchery, freak-offs, and that you have your woman get down on that type of program. If you've seen they're hanging him, why would you go testify? Diddy won't take the stand in his own case. Why the fuck would you? Let's be honest. Now, I do believe Kanye is trying to offer and extend that hand of, yo, that's my mans. These niggas is pussy. They know he innocent, but they ain't gonna say nothing. I'm gonna show up. Your presence is the statement. You don't take that stand. You take that stand, and certain things will be ruled or overruled that then opens your own sexual interest or whatever you're into to now public knowledge. And then you're going to end up not only perjuring yourself, you're going to self-incriminate yourself, because look what they just charged Diddy with. Diddy ain't taking a stand in his own case. For the love of God, Kanye, we love you. Don't take the stand in his case. Diddy ain't taking a stand in his own case. For what we know right now, you don't got no federal cases, brother. We know that's your man's. Throw him a couple dollars, give him some couple words of encouragement, show up at the goddamn trial to show that you there with solidarity, wear a shirt, but don't get on that stand, Kanye. Bad move. Bad move. You get on that stand. Somebody said Diddy's not taking a stand. Do you think Diddy, in most of these cases, none of these niggas take the stand? R. Kelly to the stand? Harvey Weinstein to the stand? Jeffrey Epstein to the stand? No. Bill Cosby to the stand? No. So my thing is, they're referring to you by pseudonyms and other shit. That's what they're doing currently. Why the hell would you want to go volunteer your own life? Because now you got to speak about some personal shit, sexual shit. Stop it.
Los Angeles residents, they already brought on the stand the guy that was in charge of searching Puffy's Miami house. They brought the dude who was in charge of searching Puffy's house in Los Angeles. He's from Homeland Security. Black dude. He took the stand. They found a Mossberg pump shotgun, a Glock pistol with a 10 bullet clip. They found 3 AR-15 Smith & Wesson rifles with the magazine, with 30 clip magazines, and then they found a drum, a 60 bullet drum that could hook up to the Smith & Wesson AR-15 joint. One of the serial numbers was scratched off one of the guns. All the other guns had serial numbers. And they found about 900 containers of Astroglide and about 200 containers of baby oil. They found ketamine and they found MDMA at his house.
Certified Munch on Kick. Yeah, it's one thing you say in the song that you sucked your cousin's dick. It's another thing when you're in a federal proceeding and you are giving the entire world, every camera is going to show up. If he takes a stand, it's going to be bigger than the first day of motherfucking trial, chat. So now every camera's in the world and you're saying on oath, me and Diddy do the same shit. I have freak offs too. Now they're going to ask you about your lyrics. Yo, yeah, you said it ain't one man who ain't had an altercation with a woman. Are you saying you beat your woman too? You're going to give the groundwork for a future indictment against yourself. Why would you do it? No.
All of that was brought out. I got all of my notes, and I will go deeper into that. In my afternoon session. Mark Agnifilo cross-examined him, and Mark Agnifilo did a magnificent job of cross-examination, because I'm looking at the screen and I'm seeing all these guns, I'm seeing the drugs, and I'm saying, like, this ain't good for Puff, right? But that's why I'm not a high-power trial attorney like Mark Agnifilo. By the time Mark Agnifilo was done cross-examining my man, what he said and all the evidence the government had meant absolutely nothing. And I'm gonna share that with y'all this afternoon. Court's gonna start back up at 1:30. Right now they got one of Puffy's assistants on the stand, and the assistants have found a hotel night video on.
By the way, shout out to Versili for the 20 gifted subs on the kick. Big homie Ty as well for 10.
Puffy's iPad of Jane and a male entertainer and Puffy doing their thing, and one of the assistants found it, showed it to another assistant, then somebody outside the company got the video. They brought the video to Puff. Do you want us to leak? It's a pretty interesting story. I'll have that for y'all this afternoon too. Sean G, podcast was sold. It don't never stop. Shout out to everybody. I see y'all at about 4 or 5 o'clock. Pick. But yo, I may go early. I may leave early, so put your notification bell on, because these witnesses, this is nothing. You know, it's another Homeland Security dude. All right, we know what he gonna say. It's another assistant. All right, we know what he gonna say. You know, Jane Doe, Cassie, those were like the main ones. And their testimony pretty much, you know, didn't prove much because of all the lies they told in their testimony. So this is like small potatoes, but I'm still gonna cover it since I'm already here.
How was the fish?
Sean G, podcast was sold. What's your name, man?
How was the fish?
What fish?
It was in Harlem, man. Because our camera. Nah, I'm not academics. I was saying that at first. Not academics. Myron is down here.
You was telling people you was academics?
No, hell no.
Oh, okay.
Why the fuck I want to look like him?
No, don't curse now. Don't curse, because they're going to
that.
strike my video.
Why I want to look like that nigga? So I keep hearing it. I'm telling people I'm not. Then what happened is he did a video on me saying I'm trying to be him. It's a lie. Shorty called me that. I never told Shorty I was that nigga. So he called me. He violated me. He made all academics.
All right, well,
He called me the big
fat. But hold on. Academics been showing me love, so I don't want to disrespect.
You're not disrespect. I'm telling you what happened.
Right, I didn't know this story that you telling now.
If you let me finish, you will know.
Unc, you know we turning you up.
No
right, but hold on. This is my channel. You don't tell me. You don't tell me.
Nah, Unc, stand on business. Yo, chat. Oh, we gonna have to show Unc some more love. Unc, we gotta show you some more love.
I'm trying to tell what happened.
Right, but let academics know that I didn't know this story, so he don't think
he just know now.
Right, so academics, I didn't know none of this.
Oh, we fuck with you, Unc.
No beef. Listen, people, understand this. The man made a video. I never disrespect the man. The man.
Unc, I can see you're like, yo, this man's trying to lie. Yo, Unc, I know what's going on. Hey, brother. To this dude right here, Unc is having his moment. To you, sir, I get it. We get what you're saying. You're not trying to be me. Okay, but go over there. Unc, we cooking with Unc right now, okay? And I know Unc is like, bro, don't fuck up my shine. I've been building with Ak. The chat been fucking with me. They're giving me donations. They love me. Don't fuck up what I got going on because you trying to get off whatever you say with academics. Sir, whatever your name is, hey, brother, you got it. We're cool with it. It's cool. Like, whatever. I just spoke on it one time. It doesn't matter. Let Unc cook, though. Please. I'm going to tell all y'all YouTubers down there. Don't interfere with Unc shine. Unc is giving, yo, let me tell you this. We and Unc right now is Kobe and Shaq. We're doing it 1-2. It's like bang, bang. So listen, please let Unc shine. We love that he's going up. Don't interfere. I don't even want to watch the rest of this. Let Unc cook.
There was no gangs here. There was no Bloods here. There was no Crips here. No gang was here when I grew up. We didn't do that. It was every man for himself. You stand on your own square. New York was so violent in the 80s, right? 1,900 homicides a year. Look up the number of homicides in New York in 1988, 89. No Los Angeles gang, no Chicago, no gang could have come here in the mid to late 80s talking about
Let's take a shot for Unc, chat. Let's take a shot for Unc. We got 20,000 in here. Let me see how the numbers break down. We got 20,000 in here. Where did 20,000 from? They said we just hit 20K. It took a little long today, but we got there. How did we get to the 20K? Let me tell you where we at. We got 7,000 over the Academy, 7,000 over at King Academics. We got 3,500 over at Kick, and we got about 3,000 over at or is it 2,500 over at Rumble. So we made it work. Oh, I forgot to turn on Meta. You know, they got to watch too. Here we go. Here we go. Take a shot. You feel me? Bang. Unc, we love you, brother. We love you. And by the way, Unc, I could tell you a loyal dude because I seen you cut him off mid-bro. It said, hold on now, brother. This is my broadcast, and he been showing me love. Hold on. Now, we fuck with you, Unc, and we know you a fair broadcaster, and we love your point of view. You know, I think you got a POV, and we like playing stuff, and I'm glad every time that the chat turn you up. So, you know, do your thing. You got that charisma, that pizzazz. You are Unc. I ain't gonna lie to you. You're Unc. You're Unc for us. You get me? And we don't gotta agree on everything, but we fuck with you because you are entertaining. So just let you know this is how we feel about you.
Setting up shop doing nothing. It wouldn't have happened. No dice. You know how I know? Because it didn't happen. So we don't promote no gangs here. Academics. I didn't know that story with you and my man.
Brother, we love you. I'm gonna just skip past it. I love you, brother. We love you.
And I see y'all later on this afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, when he gets back on, let him know Act don't feel no way. Act loves him, and Act, you know, just tell him, yo, we're supporting him. Protect his energy. Protect his energy. There's a lot of YouTubers out there. And by the way, everybody who we watch, we want to turn up. You know, this weekend I'm gonna try to make sure I definitely do something for sure with Lauren. But you know, shout out to the people we watch. We try to get a fair perspective. We've been covering this trial for a long time, and we want to continue covering this. Okay. All right, beautiful. Here we go. All right, so we should get back to the tweets. I don't know what's going on with Twitter, but I think it's just specifically here. Okay, cool. So day 23, part 3. Look like my man, Inner City Press is trying again. We got some more tweets. Here we go. And by the way, chat, I hope you understand my response to that. And that's why I don't want to give it too much, like, you know, attention. You know, there's times y'all have seen me with ego. Like, this is not one of those situations. Like, we fuck with Unc. I don't want to have no ego with it. Like, I'd never start fucking with Unc because, like, this is like, oh, yeah, nigga, I'm doing something for you. No, we genuinely appreciate you, Unc. Like, honestly, we appreciate you. Again, I'm not in court. I have this platform, and they've tasked me with trying to figure out the best people with the best sources that could kind of tell us this story in the best way, make it entertaining, informative, tell us any little thing we've missed. You're one of the people who help us out, brother. You know, so I know, you know, I don't look at it like, oh, yeah, I'm doing something for you if I'm like, you know, playing your videos. Never. I look at it like you're doing something for us, and we're helping you. And that's how it should be, okay? All good. So, let's get some tweets real quick, chat. How y'all feeling? Everybody feeling good in here? I know it's lunch. I ate lunch before I started. When I start late, I eat lunch before. I should get the fruit going on. Says now, Sean Combs versus the U.S. This is part 3. This is after, you know, lunch. Hopefully, they will not interrupt. So, Xavier Donaldson comes in before the jury comes in and says, Your Honor, we wanted to address the juror number 6. The judge says, and he said this before, we wanted to do that another time. Comey says, after Ms. Perez, we have exhibits to introduce so we could get our summary charts together over the weekend. The judge says, all right, we could probably do it around that time. It says, all rise. The juror enters, and then Smizer then starts to get at the Perez, who's an assistant for Combs. By the way, keep in mind, this is about like the fifth or sixth assistant. Those are the people who are cooperating. Now, remember this idea that the idea about conspiracy is that people were knowledgeable and had tacit knowledge, and they were complicit in some of this stuff happening, and they knew at least some of their, the overall goal was to probably help commit or facilitate a crime. We don't see the security guards being involved. Chief of staffs, they're not being involved. We're seeing some chief financial people, but they don't know nothing about nothing. The only people who kind of would know something about something is the assistants, and it kind of feels still like they're the lowest level people. Yo, go get me some Astroglide. Yo, go get me some this. Go get me some that. They're not knowing, hey, we're getting this because Jane Doe doesn't want to do it, but she gonna have to do it against her will because she's been sex trafficked. That's not what they think, right? That's why they're all getting immunity, because they're like, well, we need immunity because, yeah, we did some stuff that what y'all are alleging is sex trafficking, but we didn't think this shit was a crime. So this is still gonna be a problem. Anyway, Smizer says, Perez, were you subpoenaed or do you have an immunity agreement? Says, Smizer, were you subpoenaed or do you have an immunity agreement? Perez says yes. AUSA says, let me show you this. It said, what is this? It says, Mr. Combs' Gucci pouch. It said, what was in the Gucci pouch? It said it was drugs and money. Smizer says, now some text. It said, who is this between? It said, this is between me and Rob. AUSA says, Rob says, will you locate his Gucci pouch in the bathroom? What did you say? Perez says, so Perez says, I texted, there was no residue and I did not steal any Addy. Huh. So somebody named Rob. Who's Rob? Rob says, will you locate his Gucci pouch in the bathroom? What did you say? I texted, there's no residue and I didn't steal an Addy. Meanwhile, what? Meaning what? It said Addy means Adderall, okay? Smizer says, a part of your employment, did you have any role in obtaining drugs? Perez says a handful of times. I'd purchased or grabbed them from someone outside. AUSA says, who were you getting drugs for? Perez says, Mr. Combs. AUSA says, which drugs? Perez says, cocaine, Xanax, and Molly. Smizer says, how did you pay for the drugs? Perez says, cash. Where did you get the cash from? Perez says, security or the Gucci pouch? AUSA says, who in security? Perez says, Fahim. AUSA says, did your text here say that? Perez says, I texted Fahim, I need 700 for Guido. What's Guido? It said, for drugs. Smizer said, in this text, I texted that I'm waiting for the funds from TriStar, Mr. Combs' business manager. And so who'd you interact with at TriStar? So Robin Greenhill. Said, did you get a FaceTime from Combs from Jane's house? He says, yes. So I dropped him at Jane's house with his supplies. Then he called me a couple hours later. Combs says, how did Mr. Combs appear in the FaceTime? Perez says, angry and annoyed. AUSA says, could you see Jane's face? Perez says, no, she was turned away. Smizer says, what did Mr. Combs ask? Perez says, for me to say that there had been another female. What? Perez says, Combs asked for him to say there had been another female on the trip we'd been on. I said, no. Someone said, had there been? Perez says, no. How did you react during this FaceTime? Perez says, pretty normal, I thought. What? That's kind of odd. This guy's saying that Diddy asked him to say if there had been another female on the trip. And he said, no. What? So what did you do? I told Fahim and KK that Combs was arguing with his guests and that I was going to pick him up. AUSA says, what is this? Perez says, the message between me, Fahim, and Mr. Combs on June 20th, it says, I wrote, need cash for his guest ASAP. Okay. Smarza says, do you know what the money was for? Perez says, no. Did you leave working for Mr. Combs? Perez says, yes, to avoid a situation like this. AUSA says, how did you feel about Mr. Combs? Perez says, great. The same way as when I worked there. AUSA says, no further questions. Steele then comes up. Brian Steele says, is Mr. Combs a motivator? Yes, he is. Steele says, have you seen Mr. Combs cry? Let me show you something. Let me give you a second. The judge says, Your Honor, may I hand him a book? You may. They hand him 3605. Yeah. Okay. All right. Waiting on a couple tweets here. While we wait on that, chat, I don't even know. All right. Let's just move on, man. Okay. Here we go, people. Here we go. So, back to the Diddy case. They ask Smizer, hey, listen. Smizer asked, this text, what is this for? He said, I was waiting for funds from TriStar. That's Combs' business managers. So who would you interact with them? I would interact with Robert and Greenhill. Did you get a FaceTime from Combs from Jane's house? Yes, I dropped him off at Jane's house with his supplies, and he called me a couple hours later. So how did Mr. Combs appear in a FaceTime? Angry and annoyed. Could you see Jane's face? They said, no, she was turned away. What did Mr. Combs ask? For me to say that if there had been another female, on the trip we were on, I said no. Had there been? No. And so how did you react during this FaceTime? Pretty normal, I thought. What did you do? I told Fahim and KK that Mr. Combs was arguing with his guests and that I was going to go pick him up. What's this? This is a message between me, Fahim, and Mr. Combs on June 20th, 2024. I wrote I need cash for his guests ASAP. Did you know what the money was for? No. Why did you leave working for Mr. Combs to avoid a situation like this? How did you feel about Mr. Combs? Great. The same way when I worked there. No further question. Mr. Steele, he hops up. He says, is Mr. Combs a motivator? He is. Have you seen him cry? Let me show you something. Give me a second. Your Honor, can I hand him a book? You may. 3605 says, I can't remember if he was crying, but this does remind me that he was upset. Steele says, look again. Perez says it doesn't refresh. Steele says, okay. You said there was a lot going on. Do you remember the March searches? He says, yes. Did you see the news? Yes. Have you been in a bedroom at 2-Star Island? She says, yes. Did you see any guns there? No. Did you ever see him with firearms? Never. I only saw him with security. Steele says, because he's a man of note, right? He says, yes. Steele says he's a man of respect in many fields, though, right? Objection. I'll ask this. Have you worked with other celebrities? Perez says yes. And many of them have security, right? Yes, they do. You mentioned Jane. Was she nice to you? Yes. You called King Knight's personal time, right? Yes. Mr. Combs worked long hours, right? Yes. Because you worked out of his home, sometimes business and personal got mixed, right? Correct. Setting up a King's Night, was his business or personal? Perez says personal. Buying drugs, not saying you did it often, but that was personal too, right? Right. And buying lingerie for Jane, was it personal? Personal. Did Jane always appear to you to be a willing participant in King Nights? Objection. Overruled. Yes, always. Ooh. So he says Jane always was with it. Steele says a small amount of drugs, personal use. Ayo says objection. Judge says that's sustained. Can you estimate percentages of your work and business, business and personal? He said, I said personal was 1%, and then 99% was business. Steele says Mr. Combs needed help to help with connection to Bluetooth, right? He says, yeah, he wasn't high with tech. Okay. Says he was working on an album very, very hard, right? Yes. You said KK and Mr. Combs was close, right? Yes. But you're not saying it was sexual, right? I am not. The argument you saw on FaceTime, was it verbal? Not physical, right? He says, yes. You learned it was about jealousy, right? Yes. Jane was very jealous, right? It's objection. Sustained. Steele, you're about the same age as Jane. Yes. Was Jane a strong and independent woman? Yes. You made purchases in a sex store with the company credit card, right? I did. But you did not know if Mr. Combs paid. What? I don't. The hotel was put in your name. You had to go set it up. Right? Yes. And the room was registered as Sean Combs. And if the room was registered as Sean Combs, then there might be cameras outside, right? Right. For those asking how Kanye West looked as he came in the courthouse, here's a photo of Inner City Press via Josh Russell. So I guess that's his brother. So Matthew Russell's the guy we talked to, or talked to us. This is Josh Russell. He also did the cover photo. But okay, cool. Steele says, we propose an exhibit. AUSA says objection. Do we need a sidebar? There's a number of objections. We do need a sidebar, Your Honor. Judge says okay. Judge says you may proceed, but without showing this exhibit to the public in the gallery. Steele says so, Mr. Perez. AUSA says make sure all the camera screens are turned off. They were, and they are. Steele says these are between you and Jane. What did you say to her? That I was setting up a King's night. She was telling me what to get. She's cooperating and setting it up. Here, the chef says she's making her avocado toast. She asked for hot tea and honey to go with her heart emoji, and you replied, I loved it. And you wrote, I wrote, have a good flight and dinner. I want photos of you and the something gang. Cool. Let's get some more. She wrote to you, he's looking for smoke, and you wrote, coming. Yes. Your Honor, I don't have any further questions. Judge says, Smizer, was getting those things for Jane part of your job? Yes. Did you ever set up King's Night on vacation? No. We can turn the public screen back on. This item, new hookah, is that personal? Not necessarily. Baby oil? Personal. Part of your job? Yes. It was TriStar that designated the payments, not you, right? Right. Nothing further. Thank you. Judge says, let me see the attorneys at sidebar. They're back. We move to introduce these exhibits under seal. Judge says, granted. Jurors, you may leave for the weekend. Don't talk or read about the case. Judge says on Juror 6, under the Fazio case, Second Circuit, District Court have broad discretion. Okay. So they dismiss the jury for the weekend. Judge says in the morning when we addressed this, I said, based on the record, I was not sure an inquiry was needed. During breaks, I looked at a transcript in a Robin room and from the voir dire, that's the questionnaire, there's not evidence of bias. The juror indicated he moved to New Jersey with his girlfriend. It may not be permanent, but has been for the past few weeks. That was initially. There was a long break to confer when the juror entered the court and asked, and he said he was in New York for 4 to 5 days a week. The judge also says, in the Robin room, he said that his daughter lived in New Jersey. He said that in the Bronx, he was there with his aunt. And in the voir dire, he said he lived with his girlfriend who lives in New Jersey. These are inconsistencies. There's more in the U.S. letter. Okay. Wow.
They found a gun safe. On top of the gun safe was buckshot shells, and they laid out 2 chairs. It was a chair on the left and a chair on the right. The chair on the left, the first gun was a bolt action Ruger rifle. Dark-skinned Jermaine. Also on chair number 1 on the left was a Smith & Wesson MMP rifle, semi-automatic AR-15. And then he had a Glock 9mm. On the chair number 2 on the right, he had a Mossberg pump shotgun, 1 MMP rifle, and another MMP rifle. The MMP rifle, both of them had green tip ammunition. Ashley B. The green tip ammunition.
By the way, we could look that up. Armor piercing rounds. Is it illegal? Maybe it is. In general, possessing it is not inherently illegal under federal law. And that's all we got to read. Under federal law. But there is restrictions on manufacturing, importing, and selling them, and illegal to possess them while committing a violent crime. The federal definition of armor-piercing ammunition includes projectiles made to specific metals like tungsten, alloy steel, or iron. So it's not necessarily illegal.
Can penetrate body armor. Go right through it. You wear body armor, the green tip bullets.
Ray, you ain't got no goddamn armor-piercing bullets. Stop playing.
Can penetrate body armor. That's what the dude from Homeland Security said. One of the guns had the serial number scratched off. It was either sanded off or scratched off. Also, they found a drum magazine that holds up to 60 rounds of bullets. They took all the bullets out and it had 59 rounds in the drum. The Glock pistol had 10 round magazine, it was loaded. And the 30 round magazines for the MMP rifles were all fully loaded with 30 bullets in each one. They had all the guns laid out. They put the picture up on the screen. And that was that. Surprisingly to me, the government, the prosecutors, cut their direct examination off right there. And this is where it got magnificent, because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, how is Puff gonna get out of this? They found the drugs, the ketamine, they found the MDMA, they found all these guns, and this is all in his indictment. Under the RICO conspiracy, guns and weapons is outlined in the indictment. I need 500 thumbs up. I need 500 thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up button and share this video. Hit the thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up. So, Puffy's lead attorney, Jamal Porter, what up? Thank you for that super chat. Mark Agnifilo does the cross-examination. Yo, this is why I'm an accountant, or I'm a trained accountant. I used to be an accountant. But this is why I'm a YouTuber, and this is why trial lawyers are trial lawyers. Mark Agnifilo got up to do the cross-examination, and it was amazing. First question to Andre Lamont, the head of Homeland Security that did the search warrant on his property in Los Angeles. Mark Agnifilo asked him.
I'm out here in a countdown. Oh, that's the light, right?
And Mark Agnifilo always starts his cross-examinations off. He goes up, he says, I'm Mark Agnifilo, I'm Puffy's lead attorney. I'm gonna ask you some questions. If there's something that you don't understand, say so. I will more than feel free to ask you again. He say that every time he get up there. Every time. Mr. Lamont, Puffy has a security service that protects him and his property, right? Yes. Puffy also has a dedicated security office for his security team that he's paying, right? Yes. Andre Lamont, every gun and all ammunition were found and recovered in the security house. True? Yes. Did you find any guns in Puffy's children's room? No. Puffy has kids, right? Yes. Did you find any guns in the kitchen? No. Mr. Lamont, did you find any guns in the bathroom? No. Did you find any guns in Puffy's bedroom? No. Andre Lamont, no guns were found nowhere else but in the security house, right? Yes, all the guns were found in the security house. Andre Lamont, was the door locked to the security office?
Yo, chat, I don't even know why I'm thinking about this. Yo, did Drake ever post Wayne's album? Did Drake ever post Wayne's album? I know Nicki posted it.
I don't know. Andre Lamont, did the door to the security office have a lock? Do you have any photographs of the door that shows the door to the security office don't have no locks? No, we ain't got no pictures. Was the door forced open? Special agent, I don't know. Now, I forgot to tell y'all this part. Under the direct examination by the government put up a picture of the gun safe. And inside the gun safe were little slots, like 4 slots where you can stand the gun up, the rifle up, and you can stand 4 rifles up and put them in the slots. The prosecution put up a picture showing the safe, the gun safe, with the door already open. And the guns was on the left chair and the other guns was on the right chair. Check out Mark Agnifilo.
There we go, y'all.
Talking to the government witness, Andre Lamont, the case agent, the chief agent who did the search of 200 Mapleton in Los Angeles, Mark asked him, was the safe open before law enforcement came? Special agent, we had a locksmith, but the locksmith didn't touch that office. Mark Agnifilo, did any officer ask the guy on site, the security on site, to open the safe? Mark Agnifilo, do you know how the safe got open? Puffy wasn't there, right? Puffy was with his daughters getting ready to fly out of the country when you did the search. Puffy wasn't there, right? No. Mark Agnifilo, was this a gun safe? Special Agent Lamont, it looks like it was built as a gun safe. Mark Agnifilo, do you have another picture showing that the gun safe was closed before you opened it? Special Agent, no. So you don't know if the long guns were in the safe. Special Agent, I don't know. Mark Agnifilo, would anybody know? Special Agent, maybe SRT. So you mean that, Mark Agnifilo, you mean to tell me you were the lead agent, you were the case agent, you were in charge of the search, but you don't know if the safe was closed, if the door was locked, if the door got locks, was the guns in the safe? You don't know none of that, and you the lead agent? You the lead agent? You don't know none of that? You don't know none of that?
Your got some swag.
Mark Agnifilo, well, what do you do? What do you do? You the lead agent? You overseeing all of these men? What do you do? You don't know if the safe was open before y'all came? You don't know if the officer asked the guy to open the safe? You ain't got no picture showing the safe was closed? No video showing how the safe got open? The safe is in the security house. No guns in the bathroom, no guns in the puppy bedroom, no guns in the kitchen, no guns in the closet, no guns in the living room, no guns in his kid's room. All the guns is in the security house of the security detail that Puffy paid for to protect himself and his property. But you don't know nothing. You ain't got no answers for nothing. What do you do? What's up, man? I don't know. What's up, man? Well, what do you do? Special Agent, I inventory all the guns. Mark Agnifilo, wouldn't it be important as the lead agent to know where the guns were found? You don't know whether the guns were in the locked security room or the locked safe. Special Agent, no. Any video of the closed safe, the safe being closed? No. What is the protocol to do the search? How did you conduct the search? What's up, man?
Yo, my wife want to go to TikTok.
Instagram, YouTube. Podcast is sold.
Podcast is sold.
Podcast is sold. Appreciate you, brother. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I didn't want to interrupt you, sorry.
You good? Check Mark Agnifilo out. Check Mark Agnifilo out. Check me out. You knew this was Puffy's house. Homeland Security New York and the Southern District of New York told you to go there to look for guns. What is the protocol to do the search? How are you going to conduct the search? Sidebar.
Sidebar.
This is the federal prosecution's attempt to tie in the enterprise.
Loving Big Ack. Yo, chat. Y'all don't think I deserve a good woman? Yo, half my audience, they just want to see me crash and burn. I ain't gonna lie. It's so sad. Y'all don't see me with a good woman. I want to have like 5 kids. Y'all want to see me with kids? I'm telling you, I'm ready for kids. Feel me? Only because I'm thinking about my age. I'm like, if I'm finna turn 30 in like 5 years from now, if I turn 30 in 5 years, no, not 30, 40. I don't want to be 60 when my kids is 20. Anyway.
As being a part of some kind of SEX trafficking. Now, we took a break. We took like a 10-minute No, that was the lunch break. We took a lunch break. Nicholas Mundane, thank you for the super chat. We took a lunch break. So when we came back from lunch, right off the bat, the first question U.S. Attorney Mizer asked Jonathan Perez, check this out. Were you subpoenaed to come here? Yes. Do you want to be here today? Jonathan Perez, no. U.S. Attorney, have you been granted immunity? Jonathan Perez, yes. U.S. Attorney, can you be prosecuted if you intentionally tell a lie? Jonathan Perez, yes. The Assistant U.S. Attorney in the courtroom under oath with the ladies and gentlemen of the jury asked their own witness, were you subpoenaed to come here? Jonathan Perez, who was a government witness, said yes. Assistant U.S. Attorney Mizer then asked Jonathan Perez, do you want to be here? He said no. Stay tuned. They talked about Puffy had a Gucci pouch and he had a Balenciaga pouch. Inside the Gucci pouch, you had ketamine, cocaine, money, Adderall, and Xanax. In the Balenciaga pouch, you had Advil, Listerine, toothpaste, and other toiletries.
That's what we didn't hear about.
Jonathan Perez, you bought drugs for Puffy before, right? Yes. Did Puffy ask you to buy drugs for him? Yes. What kind of drugs did you buy for Puffy? Xanax, cocaine, Molly. Who did you buy the drugs from? Either from a guy named Guido or a girl named Baby Girl. I paid for the drugs in cash by money given to me by Fahim from security. Jonathan Perez drives Puffy to Jane Doe's house. Jonathan Perez leaves. Puffy FaceTimes him. Puffy is FaceTiming Jonathan Perez, and standing in the back of Puffy is Jane Doe standing like this. She's not standing like this, she's standing like this. And Puffy asked Jonathan Perez, hey yo Jonathan, was there another woman on the trip we went on when I went on a trip with my kids? Jonathan Perez said no. What about the other trip? Jonathan Perez said no. He hung up the phone. That FaceTime call was about 20 seconds, according to Jonathan Perez. Jonathan Perez then texts Fahim and said Puffy say he need $3,500 for Jane Doe. Jane Doe needs $3,500. U.S. Attorney Smizer, federal prosecutor, asks their own witness, government witness Jonathan Perez, who's already stated that he don't want to be here. He was subpoenaed to come here. The U.S. Attorney asks him, How do you feel about Sean Combs? Jonathan Perez, how do you feel about Puffy? Jonathan Perez, I feel great about Puffy. Why did you leave? Why did you leave Puffy in September of 2024? Jonathan Perez, that was the time he got arrested. I was trying to get in touch with Puff. I couldn't get in touch with Puff. Things changed, people changed, the whole dynamic of the situation changed, and I felt it was a good time to leave so that I can avoid a situation like this. The U.S. Attorney asked Jonathan Perez, her own witness, why did you leave Puffy in September 2024? I was trying to get in touch with Puff. He wasn't hitting me back. Things was going crazy around the office. So I felt it was a good time to leave so that I can avoid this situation of being subpoenaed to come and testify against Puff. Because I don't want to be here and I don't want to testify against Puff. U.S. Attorney Smizer, how do you feel about Puffy? I feel great about Puff, the same way I always felt. Same way I always felt.
So what we find out that these people aren't that upset as the further we get into their case.
Yeah, that's my man. Puff is my man. That's my man. Puff is my man. Shine 149. I'm from the old school New York. 100 grand. 100 grand. Then Miss Smizer had no more questions. Cross-examination. Brian Steele. Brian Steele. Cross-examination. Brian Steele out of Atlanta. Brian Steele. First question, Brian Steele asked Jonathan Perez. Jonathan Perez, you feel good about Mr. Combs? Jonathan Perez, yes. Brian Steele, Puffy is very intelligent. Puffy would leave motivational quotes on his mirror in the bathroom. Jonathan Perez, yes. You also mentioned that you've seen Puffy sad and cry. He said, I don't remember that. Well, let me refresh your memory. Read that.
Tell him, Unc.
On October 26, 2023, Puffy was crying. March of 2024, the search warrants check Brian.
What just happened? What just happened?
85, 86, and you didn't do it like that, you was getting robbed.
What you talking about?
Brian Steele to Jonathan Perez. Jonathan Perez, you knew Jane Doe for a lot of years, didn't you? Yes. For 3 years, yes. Jonathan Perez, isn't it true Jane Doe was strong, independent, and confident in herself? Jonathan Perez, yes she was. And what that does right there, it negates the fact that she had low self-esteem and she had a weak mind to let another man SEX traffic her. You know, Brian Steele was magnificent with this cross-examination. Brian Steele to Jonathan Perez. Jonathan Perez, the money you got from security to buy the outfits, the lingerie, the heels for the hotel nights, was that from Puffy's business cash or from Puffy's personal cash? John said, I don't know. Jonathan Perez, isn't it true that assistants do a lot of personal stuff for the celebrities that they work for? They do business stuff, but don't they do a lot of personal stuff for the celebrities? Jonathan Perez, yes. Alex, what's up, man?
Got your wallet.
Thank you, man. What's up with you?
Good job. You doing a good job, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. You want to say what's up to the people?
Good.
Good. My man John, my man Alex brought me a water. Appreciate you, man.
Cheers. How's it going? Good? Good.
Oh, good.
Stay blessed, man.
All right, man. I'll holler at you, Alex. Thank you,
Good
man.
job, sir.
Peace, man. So, after Brian Steele asked Jonathan Perez, don't other celebrities have personal assistants that do a lot of personal stuff for them? Jonathan Perez said yes. And then the prosecution jumped up and said, sidebar, 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 time out, sidebar, sidebar. They came back from the sidebar. Brian Steele puts up a text message showing Jane Doe is helping Jonathan Perez to set up a hotel night. Jonathan Perez, Jane Doe is helping you coordinate a king night. Did Jane Doe typically communicate with you to set up these hotel nights? Jonathan Perez, yes. Jane Doe texts Jonathan Perez, we are looking for some smoke. Jane Doe is telling Jonathan Perez to go get her some weed. Jonathan Perez texts her back. Jane Doe then says, Puffy is sleeping. I don't know if this is gonna be a quick nap or is he gonna sleep for a long time? And then Jane Doe begins to have Jonathan Perez bring her this. Bring me my pocketbook in the car. Bring me a hot beverage or a cold beverage. Bring me this. Bring me that. She working Jonathan Slave. She working Jonathan Perez like a Georgia mule, like a slave, like an Alabama slave. Brian Steele said, I have no more questions. Assistant U.S. Attorney Smizer gets up and does a redirect. First question out of U.S. Attorney Smizer's mouth. I don't know why she asked this question. Jonathan Perez, was your title business assistant or personal assistant? Jonathan Perez said, personal assistant.
Wow.
You perform personal things for Puffy, right? Yes. Then she brought up some receipts of when Jonathan Perez went to the adult store to buy stuff for Puffy and Jane Doe and said, you were working in Puffy's business when you brought these items for Puffy and Jane Doe. I have no more questions. Brian Steele jumped up and said recross, but I only got one more question. Jonathan Perez, with the receipt that Ms. Smizer just put up, the same question she asked you, the same receipt, when you got reimbursed, do you know whether you got reimbursed from business cash or Puffy's personal cash? I got no more questions. That was it. That was it. It's all over with. It's all over with. Can't do nothing with him, man. Can't do nothing with Puffy's team. Puffy got the dope team, man. They're killing them prosecutors, man. The prosecutors, compared to Puffy's legal team, look like interns or trainees, man.
Wow.
They haven't been able to do not one thing to trip up the defense, man. Not one. Not one. Friday, the podcast was sold on Instagram. I'm gonna send you YouTube. Tell them about your dog.
This is Bob.
Come closer. Who is that? What's his name?
This is Bob. This is the celebrity dog with Paws, New York.
That's Bob, the celebrity dog with
The
who?
United States versus Sean Combs, day 20. He did refer to the hotel nights to do these king nights when you were setting them up with her. Did she ever seem like she wasn't a willing participant? And he said no. Oh, he confirmed that
Nah, Unc is too funny.
avoid Jane at all costs. He also made a point to say that after the raid in March of 2024 of Diddy's home, Jonathan Perez was still working for him. So he testified that Christina Coram just said to him, you know, if you're approached by law enforcement, whatever, just tell the truth. And Brian Steele just said, yeah, and that's all she told you. No one told you to lie. No one told you to do anything else but tell the truth. And he said, yes. Now, let's see. Yeah, okay. So that's pretty much it. Now, it turns out juror number 6 most likely will be dismissed.
Dream Masters, I see you.
And I say most likely because the defense strongly objected and the judge said, you know, if I change my mind over the weekend, I'll let you know type of thing, which I don't think is going to happen. But it turns out the judge had a chance to look at some transcripts and weigh everything. And I guess this juror had said that he lives in the Bronx with his aunt, but then told a staff member that he was living in Jersey with his girlfriend and his baby daughter, and then backpedaled before and said he just moved there, or didn't. He visits there, he stays over there because his daughter was just born and his girlfriend just moved there. And basically the judge said that he was shading his answers when he was questioned in order to stay on the jury. And the defense, Xavier Donaldson and Brian Steele raised objections, and Donaldson talked about race and again, how he was one of the only black people on the jury. And Brian Steele also said, well, the prosecutors, they had transcripts to reference before with any inconsistent statements that were made, and now they're deciding to do this when they've already seen his expressions and this and that. And by the way, my opinion about his expressions, I know who this juror is. He's the one that always looks really stressed and kind of uncomfortable, and he's looking at the clock a lot as well. So, I mean, take that for what it is. And then there was some evidentiary issues at the end. I left a little bit early, but they were talking about KK a lot, and KK working with some attorneys on civil suits or doing things for attorneys because of these civil suits. So I just was kind of thinking, like, KK has been cooperating throughout a lot of this, perhaps.
No, she not.
We saw some arguments about letting some evidence in about D-Rock and what else? D-Rock and yeah, that seems to be all that I can recall right now. But I left a little bit early, so it's Friday. Okay, leave me alone.
Okay. All right, people. It is Friday. It is Friday. All right. Got to give everybody a little bit of grace. Okay.